Good afternoon, everyone. Instead of good morning, getting a late start today, but we're still gonna do this. My phone has been giving me issues today, but we're gonna try one more time. Not today, Satan. This is gonna happen. Okay, so we are on day 5 of reading the Bible in a year. So we are on Genesis chapters 16 through 19 today. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so Genesis chapter 16 through 19, we start out with Sarai and Abram, and they are losing patience. They are kind of doubting God, not having faith, because they were promised a child, and now it's been about 10 years, and they are still childless. And Abram's about 100, and Sarai's about 90 at the time, so they're beginning to lose hope. And I know I run out of patience sometimes after about 10 minutes, so I can't imagine 10 years of waiting. I know that must have been really hard for them. So they come up with, Sarai comes up with a plan, and she tells Abram, maybe we can have a family if you go into my slave Hagar. So of course Abraham agrees. So Hagar gets pregnant, and then it says she began to despise her mistress. So of course I had to look up the word despise, and it doesn't just mean to hate someone. It's scorn, dismiss, ignore in a disrespectful manner, disregard. So basically she becomes arrogant, cocky, and is like, haha, I'm pregnant and you can't get pregnant, so I'm better than you. And then we see that Sarai now she's going to blame Abram for this struggle that she's now going through with her slave. She's like, this is your fault. And then he says, well, she's your slave, do what you want with her. So then she starts to mistreat her slave, and so then Hagar runs away. And then we get over here, and it says, the angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. So I believe that this is Jesus. Some people would disagree, but I believe this is actually Jesus appearing in the Old Testament. I believe they call that a theophany. And he appears to her, and he tells her to go back and submit to her mistress, to Sarai. And he says, you're pregnant, you're going to have a son. So he says he's going to bless the son, and she's going to have, descendants as numerous as too many to count, just like Abram is going to have. But he also says that he will be a donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand will be against him, and he will live in hostility towards his brothers. So it's kind of like a not happy prophecy, but he tells them what's going to happen. And then I think this is really beautiful right here. She says she gave this name to the Lord. You are the God who sees me. And she said, for now I have seen the one who sees me. And so this name of God is El Roi, the Lord who sees me. And then in chapter 17, we see another name for God, El Shaddai, God Almighty. And he appears to Abram, and this is where he changes his name to Abraham and says he's going to be the father of many nations, and he establishes the covenant of circumcision. So all the men need to get circumcised, which I'm sure went over really well. And changes Sarai's name to Sarah, and she's the mother of nations. And then he's still saying that you're going to have a son, and so Abraham laughed. And he says his name's going to be Isaac, and he's going to establish his covenant with him. And Abraham's like, well, why not Ishmael? He's already here. And God says, I'll bless Ishmael, but Isaac is who I'm going to have my covenant with. And it's interesting here. He says he's going to be the father of 12 rulers. And it's interesting because Isaac ends up having Jacob, and then Jacob has the 12 sons who are the 12 tribes of Israel. So they both end up with a set of 12 rulers under them. And then we have this section that's about the 3 visitors, which again, I think is Jesus and 2 angels. Some people disagree, obviously, but sometimes you just aren't sure, but that's what I think it is. And then, when we get over here, you'll see why. So then this section, these 3 visitors come, and Abram wants to host them and give them food. So he's like, quick, Sarah, make bread. And he's going to, kill the calf and give them curds and milk. And So they are going to have this meal, and it says, while they ate, he stood near them under a tree. And I thought this was really interesting because at church on Sunday, Pastor Diego was talking about what it means to wait on the Lord. And I think a lot of times we're thinking of it as time-wise, like we wait for God's timing, but it's also like a position of waiting, like you would wait on a customer or a client. Whereas like, I'm going to stand off to the side and watch, like, what do you need? How can I serve you? So that's kind of what Abraham is doing right here. He's waiting on the Lord in that way. So thought that was kind of cool. I like when things connect from different ways, like sometimes you hear things at church and then you read in the Bible and they just connect that way. It's like a confirmation, if you will. So, and then here we have Sarah's laughing about getting pregnant too, just like Abraham had laughed about it. But the angel says, is there anything too hard for the Lord? And then she lies about laughing, and he's like, no, you laughed. And then here we have Abraham pleading for Sodom. So they're going to go destroy Sodom, but Abraham's like, well, what if there's, this many people living there, and they finally get down to 10. So if 10 people are righteous living there, then he won't destroy it. But of course, we know that didn't happen because Sodom and Gomorrah get destroyed. So here we have Lot welcomes the two men. The crowd of men outside are saying, like, bring him out, bring those men out. And he's like, please don't do this wicked thing. And then over here, then the men are like, well, then, here this guy comes in as a foreigner, and now he's trying to judge us, like we're going to do worse to you. So the two angels basically have to save Lot from the crowd. And now the city's about to be destroyed, and Lot hesitates. So this is when he hesitated. The men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and his daughters and led them out safely of the city. So basically they had to drag them out of the city because they knew it was going to get destroyed for Abraham's sake. So over here it's he remembered Abraham and brought Lot out of the catastrophe. So that word remembered again. So he's caring for Abraham by saving his nephew and his family. And the sons-in-laws didn't believe him. So he just gets out with his daughters and his wife, but he tells them, the angels say, don't look back. And the wife looks back. And so she becomes a pillar of salt. And we could do a whole study on what that, how we shouldn't look back and, just move forward. But she looks back. She was not looking forward and, probably missing her home and wondering what's going on. And then the last little section we have is Lot and his daughters, and this is really crazy. So they end up living in a cave, and then again we find that, women back then were super concerned about having children, and so these girls are like, there's no one to have children with, so they get their father drunk, and they get pregnant by their father, and one of these children is named Moab and the other Ben-Ami. And so from these children come the Moabites and the Amorites, and we are going to see them in future chapters as well as enemies of Israel. And then specifically we're going to see Moab again when we get to the book of Ruth, because Ruth was a Moabitess. She was from Moab. So yay, my phone didn't cut off this time. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the chat. And I guess that's it. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.